question. I'm sorry.
The traveler protects us, and we will protect him. The guardians will come through. They always do.
They always do. Welcome.
Their own constituencies are in that position, so I'm not. I think we can get a lot done. Thank you.
So far, everything's looking sweet. The countdown was here.
Sir, what do you say to the Americans that are anxious over the fact that President Trump has yet to
Attention,
concede and what that
connecting
might
to
mean for the
Destiny
country?
server.
Well,
Yep. Hey,
I just think it's an embarrassment.
don't touch me.
Frankly, the only thing that.
Oh, come on, get up. How you gonna touch me with your
How
feet?
can I
Come
say
on.
this? I think it will not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Legacy. I think that I know from my discussions with foreign leaders thus far that
They upped the light on all my guardians
hopeful
too.
that United States
I'm just
democratic
calling that out.
institutions are geared once
On
again
all
to
my
be
guardians, they
strong.
upped my light.
And but I think at the end of the
I hope
day,
that's a glitch that they're keeping with me.
it's all going to come to fruition on January 20th.
I ain't gotta work too hard on my other
Now and
ones,
then,
so I get to pick and
open
choose who I want to
expectation
be.
is that the American people are
Who I
do know,
wanna
do
be.
understand that there has been a transition, even among Republicans who are people who voted for the president. I
I've
understand
seen
the
terrible
sense
things
of
born
loss.
out in the
I get that.
darkness.
But I think the majority of the people who
Every
voted for the
moment
president, a
brings
lot voted for
loss.
him, a significantly smaller number, but a lot voted for him. I think they understand
My
that
future
we
does
have
not
to come
begin
together.
yet.
I think
You ain't gonna be able to see it again.
unite, and I believe we can pull the country
It's time to
out
step
of this.
beyond the light.
Yo, I'm live. What you say? I'm not gonna be able to see this again.
See for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
And just to follow up on a previous question,
That's
how
not
do
talking
you
to me.
expect to work with Republicans if they won't even acknowledge you as president-elect?
They will. They will. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.
President-elect Joe Biden, he took a number of questions after wrapping up his speech on health care as his team prepares to take on one of the biggest health crises in our country's history. This is Spectrum News, a special report. I'm Kristen Shaughnessy, New York City. I want to thank you for being with us. We are bringing you this next special from our studios here in New York.
That's all we getting?
From our sister station down in
Wait, hold on. That's all I'm getting?
Tim Williams. He's the host of North Carolina.
What's going on?
Tonight. We've got New York Globe's political director Bob Hart and Aaron Dole.
I hope y'all seen it here first.
Health reporter. I want to get to some of the answers to the questions that the
I was halfway in.
gave, but first, Aaron, I want to start with you. He talks a lot about the importance of the Affordable Care Act, how there have been a number of efforts to dismantle it, and we're seeing the latest one that is before the Supreme Court right now. The question for you that people are out there and they're saying, okay, if I lose my job, whether it's because of the pandemic or another reason,
We got a new
the
countdown.
gets struck down, what would I do?
Well, Kristen, at this point, all we need to do is look at what history tells us. Before the ACA was in effect, those who did not have health insurance simply did not go and get health care services when they needed it unless it was an absolute emergency. So what experts say will happen if the ACA is dismantled without a reasonable replacement is that we will see far worse health outcomes than we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years under the ACA. This will harm poor communities who have less access to health care. It will affect those with chronic illnesses who might avoid going to the doctor for those checkups because they don't want to pay for those doctor's appointments. So overall, the expectation is that we will see a worsening of health outcomes across the country, Kristen.
And just to follow up on that real quick before I get to Tim and Bob, Kamala Harris, the Vice President-elect, she really was appealing to specific areas of the population. She was saying women are going to be particularly hard hit, people of color as well, and young adults.
Yes, that's right. I mean, especially communities of color, as we've seen highlighted within the pandemic, there are higher rates of chronic diseases, and that's the result of many different factors, or the social determinants of health, not having access to health care easily, not having access to healthy food. All of these things compound, and they're still trying to understand why communities of color have been hit so hard by the pandemic, but these groups are also likely to feel a collapse of the ACA more intimately, more acutely. So yeah, this is a huge issue. As you heard the president say, and the polls do bear this out, the American public has grown to appreciate and depend on the Affordable Care Act. Now, under the Affordable Care Act, when a person loses their job, they're less likely to be uninsured because they can gain insurance through the marketplace plans. That won't be an option for the estimated 30 million additional families who have lost their job during the pandemic, Kristen.
Aaron, thanks very much. I want to get to Tim now. I just want to touch on some of the answers that he gave to reporters' questions, because it's really the first time we've heard him talking in depth about his reaction to the election. When he was asked about President Trump not conceding, Tim, he said, I think it's an embarrassment.
Yeah, this really stood out to me. That was the closest he got to saying something that was sort of... Remember, this is the same gentleman that called President Trump a clown and said, "Shut up, man." I could not believe how measured he was and how cautious he was. And it's a tone that they tried to set since last week about unifying the country and bringing the country together. And as many times as he was asked, that last time, as you mentioned, he answered that, "I think it's an embarrassment." But I do think he's trying not to rile up the other side here, and he knows that President Trump is watching this. And this is just after we heard Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that there would be a transition to a second Trump administration. So it's delicate for Joe Biden, but it is clear that they are being very cautious in what they say and very measured.
They certainly are. All right,
yeah, y'all better to. Y'all better be cautious, because this nigga got something in his bag. Oh, excuse me, I'm live with this. Alright.
Regarding this lesson, and he said, I guess just being in politics for so long, he knows how this works. He said President Trump has a lot of people who are intimidated by him.
See the countdown for Destiny 2. We'll be right back with these messages.
Almost with a smile, mildly intimidated, but it feels, and it was really interesting. You know that Joe Biden's supporters and top aides are furious, and that was the opposite of furious, what we saw on our TV screens just now. But like Tim pointed out, Biden couldn't let a little frustration slip out at the end when he said that it was an embarrassment, and he pointedly said this will not help Donald Trump's legacy. And by the way, historians would probably agree with him. So, but overall, the whole motto is never let him see you sweat.
Get my Xbox
today, and that's
what
the
so
whole
loud.
point of this was. He didn't say anything new about Obamacare or health care. The only thing that he can tie that to, obviously,